Off the opening statement.
Good. Yep. We'll wait on everybody. I don't want you to. I'm early.
Good. Yeah. All right. Everyone's here. They cleared that room's empty.
Oh, okay. So we had our first shoulder pad practice today, which was exciting. That we could actually practice, and it's always enjoyable to get out there and let the guys play real football. So we had a long practice, and the effort's good, enthusiasm's good, which is typical for this time of year. We need to maintain. Guys are excited about being out there. There's not really any changes personnel-wise. I mean, we've just been in pads one day, but everything's going good. As I said a few days ago, I really like our staff. I like how they're coming together as a group and working, and we've got a long ways to go. This is a somewhat unusual season from the standpoint of we have some really experienced players at key positions, and then we have players that don't have any experience at all at key positions. So I had somebody ask me yesterday what I'm most looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the first game to kind of see what happens with our plans and schemes and concepts that we think give us the best chance for success.
Questions?
Sometimes you kind of forget to appreciate what you have, but with the weather you dealt with this morning, how appreciative were you? Because you not only had your team, but you had all the extreme campers,
Right.
and you probably made a few changes, but that seemed like a comfortable practice considering.
I would have rather practiced outside some in the rain, but the lightning sent us indoors. And to your point, years ago we'd have had to shut it down, and it would have disrupted today, which has to be on time with our fans and you guys, and it's a very busy day for us, for everybody. So we adjusted some of what we needed to do in practice to where we could fit inside, and then once we got the 30-minute horn from somewhere in downtown, I don't know who blows the horn that says you're clear, then we could go back to normal practice. So it's very beneficial for us to have the facility that allows us to continue with practice.
Also, you had Mike Defee here today, and I couldn't help but notice he can't help himself. I mean, he goes out there and he's street clothes and starts working like a referee, and he talked to your team before the practice. That has to be a benefit.
It was really beneficial. I'm concerned about the new targeting rule more so this year than ever, and so we had him come in and spend time with our staff, with a team first this morning for 30 minutes, and then our staff for a couple hours this afternoon. And he's really a class guy. He's very knowledgeable and easy to work with. So he comes out and watches practice, and it's interesting. He gets right into watching things that he would watch in a game, and he's actually going over and correcting some things with the players. He's trying to help everybody, and the coaches in this league have a great relationship with him. So I thought it was a good move for us to get him in here today.
Mike, you said something during Big 12 Media Day. You were talking about Spencer and his year spent redshirting and just how much he maybe, I don't think you said didn't know what he didn't know, but just the learning that he did. As you've now got to see him in practice situations, are there things now tangible you can say, this is different than what he was doing a year ago, how that year changed him?
His ability to function in our system is better than it was a year ago. We still haven't done enough in pads, but just executing our offense and running a system at such a high speed like we do, our tempo, he's already better. He's got a long ways to go in areas that we all know that quarterbacks need to adjust, and unfortunately a lot of times at that position you really only learn from mistakes. And so he's better at just the structure and organizing our system and getting everybody up there, and if they're lined up wrong, making sure that the clock's not going to expire on him for the delay of game, getting everybody adjusted, getting it lined up, getting our signals, and functioning at a really fast pace. That's where he's improved at this point.
What do you expect from Juba this season, and just how different is it for him going into the season being an established guy?
Chuba looks really good, you know, for me personally as a coach, you're always careful to really step out there, but, I mean, he's about as pretty as they get. You know, he's 208, 210 pounds, and I don't know how fast he is, but he's really fast. He's very determined, he's very intelligent, he understands. When we lost Justice last year, it was difficult for us because we lost a great player. But as I said earlier, now it benefited us because he had to play in some really key games. So I'm also excited about watching him play. And I mean, he's really just kind of scratched the surface with his body and what he can do and what he can bring to the table. The area that he's improved as much as any is just his leadership and his willingness to work extremely hard. One thing I noticed in practice yesterday, and I didn't say anything about it, so I just kind of watched it today, and it reminded me of guys back when I practiced. When he takes the ball in practice from the 40-yard line, when we're in a tag period where we're not tackling, he runs all the way to the goal line every time. And I hadn't seen that in years. So that's encouraging. Now, we could get back to how many steps he takes a day at practice. That could be a little bit of an issue, but I would rather back him off than have to kick him into the fight. So we're really excited about him at this point.
You got LD Brown as something of an established guy behind him. How important is it to figure out who that number 3 guy is going to be to help you out there?
LD's done really well. He's come a long way. He's a really good example of just years in maturity, and if those guys stay healthy through camp, they'll be a good package. Dez is behind him. DeAndrick is further behind. He's got a ways to go. Jeter looks really good. I mean, I don't know if y'all have seen Jeter or paid attention to him, but you know, he was a little bit soft looking at this time last year. He was a little heavy. He got up around 227 pounds. I think he's closer to 215 now, and he looks slim. And so he's starting to mature a little bit and grow up. I'm comfortable with all those guys carrying the ball. And behind Shu, right now we don't know, but those guys that we have behind him, at this point I'm comfortable. Ball security is very important. That's one thing we don't know yet because they haven't been out in the game and been hit when they're tired. That'll be important. You know, if you want to carry the ball or touch the ball in this offense, you have to take care of the ball. So they have a skill set. They just need some reps and to continue to work hard. But I feel comfortable with that position.
Everybody in the building would like for you to name a quarterback. You'd like to know who your quarterback is, but at what point, like in the camp schedule, do you just say, all right, I gotta do this, I gotta pull the trigger on a decision?
It might not. We might play 2.
Really?
If you were at practice today, you'd say play 2. So
Because they were both
they're both pretty
effective, or
good.
because they were both,
They're both pretty good.
is that right?
And I know people say, well, sometimes if you can't name one, you don't have any. I don't see that as the situation here. And I would tell you, I mean, you guys can go back on my track record and naming quarterbacks. I don't wait any longer than I have to because I don't want to mess with it. If we knew who our guy was, not necessarily because one's not performing any better than the other, but because I think it helps the team to know who their quarterback is. It certainly helps us as coaches from a rep standpoint. You've watched us practice enough. So, I mean, we're through the first padded practice, and as of now, we play 2.
On what basis? I mean, how would that look? By possession?
I got
by
no idea. I'm not,
situation?
you know, that's one thing I don't have to get into. You know,
Well,
you know
that's
how
right.
you avoid things like you know, with your wife. You know, you're like, I don't want to get into that unless I absolutely have to get into that. That's kind of what I'm doing right now.
How do those two feel about potentially both getting?
I haven't had a discussion with them.
Okay.
What we've asked them to do, Jenny, is compete and prepare and be good leaders and develop a working relationship. You know, Sean is an interesting person. You know, he's a really nice guy and all that, but he's got a little bit of the dogfight in him. He wants those guys to really compete, which, I mean, I was unaware of that. I just listened to him when he's coaching, and I'm guessing somebody said he even said it to the media, which I'm okay with. It's his job, it's his position. He has to do whatever he thinks is best to get the most out of those two guys. I will say this, they're both really quality young men. They're handling it the right way, they're competing, and they're being very supportive, and the team is helping them. So you have issues with that overall with the team when you're dealing with the quarterback. You know, running backs, wideouts, O-line, D-line, linebackers, people just don't pay as much attention. But when you talk about quarterbacks, you're essentially affecting everybody on the team. So they're doing very well. And I'm not saying we're going to play two. All I'm saying is, as of today, that's what would happen. We have however many days till we play a game, so it could change. But they're both working hard. It's not disruptive to the team. That's something that I look for, and the guys are handling it really well.
A lot of times you play two quarterbacks, one brings different skill sets than the others. Are they both similar in what they can do,
They
or
are.
one better at one, something better than the other?
Yeah, this is not a Rudolph and JW. This is they're both, their skill set's very similar.
So speaking of that, Mike, how do you balance, you talked earlier about the only way to learn for quarterbacks is playing through mistakes. Neither of those guys have played here. How do you balance the need for them to play through mistakes with also the need for the coaches and the teammates to gain trust in them? How do you balance that?
Difficult. It goes back to what I said from the beginning. As soon as one of them gives us any indication in a field that they can help us perform to the highest level to give us a chance to win, we will name them that, just because of what you're talking about. You get into a lot of different things that I don't want to get into right now because it keeps me up at night, is if you put one in and you're playing two, when do you alternate them? What if he makes a mistake? Does he get to go back in? One guy might play good for 2 quarters, the other guy goes in and plays good. Who plays in the 4th quarter? There's so many different scenarios, and I don't have an answer for that right now. We have a plan, but we don't have the answer, and fortunately, we don't really need to worry about it for another couple weeks. And then we really have to start to make a decision on what we're going to do, and if it is to, how we're going to do it. Because now, we're going into the game, for me, every coach is different. I want to be fair. I want both young men to have an opportunity, so I don't want them to go out and play scared. You can't play quarterback in this offense and play scared. You're going to make mistakes because we throw the ball down the field so many times. So eventually something bad's going to happen. So what? We don't want guys to play with fear. We want them to be relentless and be gunslingers. So we try to avoid what you're saying. Do we have all the answers right now? Probably not. But if the time comes, we'll have an answer or a plan for it.
Answers aside, can you see these two guys, you've had them around your program now for a year, can you see that these two guys have the personality? You know, because it takes some mental toughness to be in a 2 quarterback situation and A, stomach it, and B, not press, not feel the need to press because you know, hey, coach has got my back. Are you comfortable with their mental discipline?
Well, I think, one, I don't think they have a choice. And 2, I think we have to lay it out for them. And I think that's part of our job as coaches, is to make sure everybody's on the same page. So we can avoid what you're talking about. Otherwise, guys will play tentative. Can't play tentative in this offense. You gotta go. You gotta go play.
Out of those 2 QBs, which one reminds you of the way you played when you were under center?
Me? Oh, those guys aren't near as good as I was. You know, these guys nowadays are so much further along. You know, part of the stress you have, even in this conference, and the defenses take a lot of hits and the coordinators take a lot of hit in this league, which is fine. But the quarterback's mental capability nowadays, these guys are so much further ahead than we ever were. They know as much as coaches do. They can come in here and direct a scheme. And they understand, they get it. When we played, we only did what they told us to do, and that was it, to a certain extent. So they're much further ahead mentally than we ever were. That's why they can move the ball so well in this conference, because all they need to know is what the defense is doing, and once they figure it out, they can start to dissect it pretty good. And these guys are further along than I ever was as a player. Their competitiveness, their nature, their toughness, their willingness to do whatever it takes to be successful, we don't know yet because they haven't been out there.
How much does the future of your program or the longevity of that quarterback factor into your decision? Does it factor into your decision?
You're talking about because Spencer's younger?
I'm just saying in years to come, or, building your program.
I think
Possibly
that's what
around
she's
one
talking
and-
about.
Yeah, we have to play the best player. And, there's so many ways to look at this, and there's so many different opinions on this. And I'm not saying that most of them probably aren't correct, but for me and Sean, we have to play the guy that we think that gives us the best chance to score points and win the first game, whoever that may be. Not necessarily worry about the future, okay? So I know kind of what you're referring to. People say if everything's close, just play the younger player and you can build on it. That doesn't always mean he gives us the best chance to win the next game, okay? So age is really out at this point. It's who gives us the best chance to be successful at Oregon State. That's really what we're concerned with at this time.
You talk about things that keep you up at night. When's the last time you remember having to give this much thought and energy to a quarterback battle?
I haven't, because I always named one. We named, and I've done this now, I'm kind of repeating myself, but we named Lunt when, if we wouldn't have, nobody would have said anything. We named Corn last year. I don't know who else we named. But it's okay. I mean, we live in a world with, there's a lot going on, social media, and you guys work full time, and everybody's on edge, and with the internet and resources out there. So it's just part of it. And Robert asked about the mental approach of Drew and Spencer. They're going to have to get ready for that anyway. I mean, it's mild compared to what they'll go through to play quarterback at this level. They have to have thick skin, just like being a coach. Everybody's got an opinion. A lot of them are probably right, but we have to do the best we can. They're going to have to do the best they can, but we certainly haven't had to deal with much of this over the years, and that's the reason why I don't waste any time naming a starter.
You touched on some of the changes to the targeting rule, and obviously a lot of people around here joke that it's the Tylan Wallace rule because of some of the crackback blocks that he had last year. They'd be penalized this year. How has he adjusted to what he's going to have to do now when he's blocking with this new rule in place?
There's the NCAA has a teaching tape out that the officials are using, and I saw it when I was out in Phoenix in May, and so we asked them to show our team and our coaches, which they're willing to do. The officials are just simply the messengers. They're getting their command and their rules from higher up, and they're only the ones. They're just saying, hey, this is what we're told to call during the year. So Tylan was a good example because he had 2 or 3 of those blocks, which they categorize as launching your body to somewhat of a defenseless player on the field. And that's why, I don't know if it's because of him, but they've used his videos on the example. I'm concerned with it because I think they're making a point. I think they've been told that if you use the crown of your helmet, anybody on the field at any time, which players that get to our level tackle in high school a lot with the top of their head. Now we teach them not to, but they, especially when 2 players are coming near each other and they start to lower their shoulders and head, even an offensive player, and they use that crown, they've really made a point this year that if you ever use the crown on your head, based on a couple other criteria, you can be ejected. They really haven't done that much unless it's been head to head. So now they're saying it can really be anywhere. If you can get a hold of that video and you watch it, it takes about 17 and a half minutes. You would understand the rule a lot better. I know it helps me. they showed a guy that tackled a quarterback, and he came through on a quarterback, and as soon as the quarterback let go of the ball, and he form tackled him kind of like what you would be coached to do, and his helmet hit the quarterback in the stomach area, but he used some of the crown of his head, and they said he's ejected this year. So I'm just concerned about it because and we're trying to coach it right now to avoid it, and maybe I'm overreacting, but I know that after playing in the bowl game and having a couple players ejected, it makes me really nervous.
Didn't Mike defeat